Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Pulse, where we give you a heartbeat into the world of real estate. Today I have not one but two very distinguished guests today. I've got some home inspectors here. I've got Mr. Geoffery Bourgeois and Mr.
Bryson
Cobb with Pinpoint Home Inspection. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you guys being here on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us.
Be here.
Absolutely. So, just right out the gate, home inspections, everyone loves to get them. Everyone loves getting them whenever they get their house because they love to know everything that's wrong with their house, right?
Right.
I'm sure y'all
Exactly
experience just smiles and hugs all around.
I mean, we have appreciative clients, that's for sure. Not everybody else is appreciative. The clients usually are.
Well, we do have some people that are going to be watching today that may have never experienced what it's like to work with a home inspector. May not even know what you guys do. They may think you just walk around with a magnifying glass around the house,
Pretty much.
Please tell us what it is that you guys do. Would love to get a mile-high view of here's what a home inspector does.
All right, so I'll start with the basics. We do a visual inspection of every accessible surface area in the home. So on the exterior, that's going to be the roof, the exterior siding, the grading and grounds around the home, the windows, doors, electrical equipment, mechanical equipment. On the interior, we'll look at the walls, doors, windows, floors, ceilings, electrical panels, attic space. Pretty much if we can get to it, we're going to take a look at it and we will notate in the report anything that's wrong with it. Now we're going to also mechanically test all the mechanical equipment using standard operating controls. So that means we're going to run all the kitchen appliances, the heating and cooling. We're going to test the water heater, test the outlets, flip every switch, turn on every light and fan, exhaust fan. We're going to check the plumbing. So we run every sink, tub, shower, flush every toilet, operate every accessible window and door, and if I'm missing anything, jump in there. But
Of course, go throughout the attic space. See if there's any staining in the decking itself.
Even in the summer, you'll
Even
go
in the
back.
summer.
Wow.
Even in the summer.
Okay.
Yep. If it's a conventional foundation, take a look underneath the crawl space. Usually we like to do that at the tail end of the inspection if we run all of our plumbing fixtures throughout, see if there's any leaks, things like that. And in some cases you'll have some ductwork systems that are run throughout underneath the home itself. So checking for any insulation tears there, if there's been any moisture related on the actual insulation of the ductwork itself. Checking to see if they have any vapor barrier that's underneath the crawl space and see what kind of critters might be living under there.
Right. Yeah. Which, and here in Mississippi, it sure happens a lot.
Absolutely.
But I will say that it sounds to me like the better question I should have asked is, what don't you guys inspect on the house? Is there anything that you guys don't look at on the house?
There are things we don't inspect. So like a whole home generator.
Yeah.
That's something that is outside of the scope of our inspection. Usually it's once we're there and we see it, we know we don't do it. So technically,
Gotcha.
Things like
A security
ice
system,
makers,
ice
security
maker.
sound systems,
Now,
things like that.
will you guys look at, I know it's something that popped in my mind. Do you guys look at septic tanks?
We do not.
Do not. Okay.
Do
We can
not.
locate it,
Yeah.
but
That's about
we
it.
run all this, if there's anything obvious, like, flooding into the yard or something like that.
Right.
Obviously, we'll make a note of that.
If there's a giant sinkhole.
We don't, we don't open anything up. We don't check on, levels or anything like that. It's
Gotcha.
we just run all the plumbing, and then if that were to cause a more obvious issue for us, then of course we're gonna put that in the report.
Certainly. And I mean, you guys being on the podcast now, you've certainly watched every single episode leading up to this point, obviously. But no, you may not know, we've already had a realtor, we've had a mortgage lender, and we've had an insurance agent. We kind of walked through, okay, here's kind of where we jump in. Here's our piece of the puzzle. So at what point should someone talk to you? Should they talk to you before they even know what house that they're going to get? Should they talk to you after they've bought the house? When do they talk to you guys?
So we like to be the part of the process as far as just like give advice and things like that at any point. But where you're going to call us and schedule an inspection is after you've gotten under contract. So you've done the realtor part, you've got your lending part figured out, you've done all that, and then you find the home that you want, you make an offer. they accept or counter, and whatever, we get to accepted offer at some point. That's when we're going to come in. They usually give you an option period. It's usually 10 days, but that can change. The option period is where basically you've got a window of opportunity to get out of the contract under reasonable terms,
Sure.
which is obviously certain things you might find in an inspection could fall under that. So we're going to get the inspection in before that 10-day option period ends.
Is that normal that it's 10 days?
It's standard, I think, is about 10 days, but I have seen it vary depending on market conditions, depending on if it's a cash buy or a mortgage deal and all that changes it sometimes too.
Gotcha. Okay, so y'all are more in the beginning side of the process. It seems like.
Yes.
Okay, very cool. Well, perfect. I mean, I think that pretty well encapsulates at least generally what you guys get to do. Now, once I will dig into the backside of things. So once the inspection is completed, right? If I'm a home buyer, especially a first-time home buyer, I don't know what in the world half the things you're going to tell me if there are, DEFCON 1 red flags or if it's like totally fine. So how do you relay to your clients, either in the report or otherwise, what you guys found?
So we always encourage our clients to come at the tail end of the review itself or the inspection. That way we can kind of give a general walkthrough throughout. It's always easier to explain things when we can show them kind of what's going to be on the report, as just getting a report the same day, that night, and they're just seeing tons of different things that they have no idea about. Those areas that we can kind of explain to them, say, hey, either that's going to be a little bit more of an efficiency there, or that's a little bit more of a maintenance related item itself, something you can just kind of create a checklist and upgrade in the future itself. So we always encourage our clients to show up. Sometimes, their agents are going to be there too, but, the case for the agents itself, we're always welcome just the clients to show up if the agents can't make it itself. So we always encourage them. We can walk through absolutely everywhere, any questions that they might have before the inspection itself, any concerns that we can, help address there. And then we always, go full in depth of the big four items. So it's going to be the roof, the foundation, the HVAC, and the electrical system itself.
Now, why are those the big four? What makes those the most important?
Those are going to be the larger ticket items for the home itself. Those are going to be the most crucial going forward that you want to have addressed before you have, let's say you have a roof leak and you have some dated electrical itself.
Yeah.
Those are going to be more, significant items going forward than it would be a smaller but loose receptacle or some cosmetic damage throughout the home.
So you're talking about just price point wise.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
Okay. Very cool. Well, perfect. I mean, so the way that you guys do things specifically, I think is incredible. And that's part of the reason I have you guys here today, is I think you guys do an outstanding job of that with your clients. So I wanted to first start with what even got you guys into this field. I mean, I'm sure you guys definitely woke up one day and just said, you know what, by golly, I'm going to be a home inspector.
Well, for me, so I used to be an educator, and that's why Bryson can, talk so well on what we do, is because our whole approach is to get our clients as educated as possible in the home. So I was a teacher, I was a coach for 20 plus years, and
you're very articulate, Jeff.
To make the very long story short, when my kids were born, I was coaching in Texas, and coaching football in Texas, it takes a lot of time away from the home.
It's very competitive too.
It's very competitive. I was 3 nights a week away from home, didn't get to put my kids to bed. And so something needed to change. And I had a home inspection because we were selling our house, because I couldn't maintain the yard and all those things because I was working so many hours. One of my athletes' dad was a home inspector, and he reached out and offered to come inspect my home for free. And I said, yeah, the price is right, so come on over. And we got to talking, and he was he's a phenomenal person, just in every other way, not just a good home inspector. And He's the kind of person that you want to, gravitate toward and learn from and things like that. And by the time he finished inspecting my home, I was like, "Are you hiring?" And he said, "If you get licensed, I'll hire you." So he kind of walked me through the licensing process. He took me on ride-alongs and showed me the ropes and all that before I even fully decided and committed to doing that. And
that's a mark of a good home inspector. To see if he made you want to become one. That's
absolutely
pretty impressive.
He and so he, I worked for him for a few years, and then we decided to make the move out to Mississippi, and I started my own thing. But that's what got me into it. It was sort of this. Fell into my lap, like it was placed out there for me, and all I needed to do was reach out and grab that opportunity.
Well, and I do want to get kind of the foundations of Pinpoint, but I do want to get how you got into things, Bryson.
So before this, I was a project manager for a big demolition company in Mississippi itself. I was spending a lot of time out of town working jobs, spending the night in hotels itself. So I kind of got tired of living out of a suitcase, decided before I was married, before we had kids, to kind of make a transition in my career itself. So I started in real estate and thought I was going to kill the business at first, and I was sadly mistaken. So I had started to talk with some different people, started to get some ideas about home inspection itself. And Jeff actually came to our brokerage office itself. He brought his son, Zach, along with him. And from that standpoint, I started talking to him and how he was going about explaining exactly what he did, what type of person he was. It really stood out to me because my dad used to bring me along, when I was a young kid. And it just spoke volumes about, who he is as a person. Bring his kid along to all these offices, showing exactly what he does, who he is exactly as a person. And I said, I would love to at least just ride along with you and just kind of see, what's about for this home inspection business itself. It was just really, getting started around here. So we both agreed that, it would be something that I would just go along for free at the very, start of it. We started going through inspections together, driving throughout, and we just started to click. And we started to go through. We had a routine that we could do through a home itself, and we could knock it out. And when our clients came, we had already had the majority of the report done. So we could really go through, be able to explain absolutely everything, where I would do everything on the interior components. He would do the exterior and then the attic itself. So we were really, really fast and efficient going throughout. Once we got all of the ride-along was the training, I got all of my licensing done. Then we kind of started to, separate. He was, living down south. So he was doing the majority of those. Unless we were busy, he would still come up, and I would do everything in the Jackson metro area itself. So we have been a little over 2 years, 1 year for myself, just being alone in the inspections, and it's been wonderful.
But it's I think the corporate word for that is you guys have good synchronicity. Right? I think that's the corporate word. Yeah. Well, where did Pinpoint come from? Did you come up with that name, Jeff?
Actually, I did not. So I knocked around a few ideas, and I had a buddy that does graphic design type stuff, and so I had asked him for a logo, and I threw a few ideas his way that what I was thinking I could name the company, and he just sent back like Pinpoint Home Inspection with the logo and everything, and I said, you know what, that's perfect. It hadn't even crossed my mind. It's it's
one of the biggest things that I've learned in business, just generally, is the expression "who, not how." I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but just having someone that you can rely on to do something for you way better than you ever could. That's awesome.
Well, and I do want to add to what Bryson was saying just a second ago. You talked about how we gravitated toward each other, and the philosophy I had and everything. Well, I gotta say, I have nothing but amazing things to say about Bryson. For basically the inverse of how he kind of explained it was, I was in a place with starting a business where I was not ready to hire somebody, that we were not getting enough business to have somebody, coming along and paying. And I can't say enough about his patience during that process. We started off, he was riding along for free, and then he got to where he was doing some things to help out, and I was giving him like $50.
It's not an easy thing with the new business.
No, like I said, just the character and integrity that he has to not only just be patient, but to still commit fully as if he was a full-time salaried type employee. He is a huge part of where we are today versus where we are when he first kind of came along.
And how long has Pinpoint been in business now?
We've been in business for just just under 3.5 years.
Yeah.
He's been with me, like he said, for at least 2, might be a little more than 2. And then on his own doing inspections for a little over 1 year.
Yeah, and I mean, for 3.5 years in, just knowing locally what you guys have been able to do, y'all are crushing it. I mean, y'all are doing incredible. Yeah. Well, that's awesome and everything, but for the people that don't know who in the world you guys are, what sets you guys specifically apart from separate home inspectors? And I'll get into some other questions about what separates the good from the bad, but I want to know what separates Pinpoint Home Inspectors from your other run-of-the-mill generic home inspectors.
Well, I don't have anything negative to say about any other home inspectors out there. I promise you. I've got nothing but good things that I've heard and could say about them. But I know that from our standpoint, the philosophy of being, client focused, education first.
Yeah.
I know that it speaks volumes to them. We're thorough. We take tons of pictures. We use video when we need to. We use top of the line software, top of the line equipment. Everything we do is focused on making sure our clients know everything they need to know. Not to say anybody else doesn't do that, but, I think our approach helps with that. And then, as we've kind of both touched upon, our integrity and our character and making sure that, we're going to do right by them. Mm-hmm. I think that radiates from us because we truly believe the things that we're saying. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Anything you'd add?
I would say as well, we offer the same day reports. So very, very fast turnaround that can be very crucial. If you have that 10-day contingency where you have that for the home inspection, where you can either decide to continue, going through with the closing itself. So that can be very beneficial. We can really fit you in on a tight schedule if we need to. We're doing, 3 a day. If they need me to come out on a, Saturday evening or Sunday after church, I'd be more than happy to. Mm-hmm. And those are, it's the biggest purchase someone can make majority of the time in their life. So it's a very big step for them. So we would always, try to work around where we can make that happen for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, I do think that your education history, your past in that definitely helps out a lot. Because
I hope so.
Look, talking to children is a lot different than talking to adults, but sometimes there's a lot of overlap and they just need to be, things just need to be put simply. It's just.
I agree. That's kind of, especially when you're talking about, mechanical equipment behind how like an HVAC system works. And, if I come in here and I just try to sound like the smartest person in the room, they may not understand me.
Yeah, clients that don't know what a GFCI is.
Right.
What is that? Is that a problem?
If you really are asking, it's a ground fault circuit interrupter. It's the outlets you see with the little switches on it. That's for wet areas, and basically what it does is if the appliance that is plugged in were to get wet, it shuts it off. So it's a safety feature. You don't have
that right there
hair dryer in the tub type of situation that you see in the movies.
That right there is why you need a home inspector.
Yep.
If you didn't know what a GFCI was, now you do. Well, I do want to ask, I'm sure you guys see lots of crazy things out there, but I do want to ask first, what are some of the more common items that you see? What are the recurring ones that just always pop up that you feel like you're reporting over and over to your clientele?
So one of the things that, I like to mention is that we're not code inspectors. And so that's first and foremost that, there's certain codes that are required to be followed. So code to us are the minimum standard requirements to build a home
So this like what
builders follow.
Yeah.
And, for them to pass their initial inspection, which is not what we do, but for them to pass that, they have to meet these certain criteria. So
that's not what you guys do.
No, we don't do that part.
Okay.
So we're working for the clients, which is 99% of the time the buyer of the home.
Okay.
So anyway, there are certain things that meet minimum standard requirements that don't meet our standards, and not ours as Pinpoint Home Inspection, but the national standards that, we go to school to learn. And so we often find those types of things in homes. So whether it be like bathroom exhaust venting into the attic space, that's by our standards say that should go out of the roof. They don't always do that. GFCI, like all around the kitchen and not just near the sink. Let's see.
Same thing with exterior.
Drip edge under the eaves, coming off the roof, things like that. Those are things that may not be required by code, but our standards say they should be there. So we try to, those things are going to be in a lot of our reports, and then we try to educate our clients that, there's a gap between what's required and what should be expected. I guess, which should be the standard, and which they are the standard in other areas of the country sometimes. So, we put it in the report, but we also try to include a little blurb about how local building code might accept this, so that's why it's going to make the report on our end, but we also want to educate them as well.
Absolutely. And that is invaluable to have someone on your side that truly cares about the homeowner themselves enough to try to educate them on that. All right. I gave you the ordinary stuff. Now I want the crazy stuff.
Okay.
I'm ready for this one.
I'll let you go first, Mr. Jeff, and just, what is the wildest thing you've come across?
So this one was just crazy because it all happened in the same place. So last week this happened.
Oh,
yes. So I walk into a home and there is a life-size Michael Myers, like not poster board, like full figure. And I mean, it was creepy because the eyes were like real looking. It wasn't like it wasn't like no, it was like full size, like dude standing in the corner, with the old William Shatner Inside Out map.
Oh wow! And
it was creepy, and like, I'm not into like all the.
You're not a horror fan?
I mean, I don't mind horror movies. What I mean is like I don't usually get creeped out real easily. So it was sort of creepy at first. So then I'm walking through the house and I find this hatch in the floor. And I texted my wife, like, this is crazy. I showed her the picture of Michael Myers, and I show her a picture of the hatch in the floor, and she's like, what is that? And, I'm like, well, it's probably just an access to the crawl space. So
if I die, you know where to find me.
Right, yeah. So I do some other things, and then I go open the hatch, and it's not an access into the crawl space. It's an access into a cellar. And it's pitch dark back there, and my heart just starts pounding because now I'm like, I have to go in here and inspect it. Yeah, I got to go inspect this, and it's not like fancy stairs down. It's just like it's actually a ladder for like a few rungs, and then it turns into some stairs, and then you can't see the floor.
And I'm guessing you didn't find a bunch of wine bottles down there.
No.
Okay.
So, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, I'm going to go down there and like, I'm going to constantly be worried that the hatch is going to close and I'm going to be stuck in there.
Michael Myers is going to lock you in there.
Michael Myers or Buffalo Bill or, So we don't need the lotion on the skin kind of situation here. So I'm like, I go, I got to calm down a little bit, and I go lay down on the floor of the room that the hatch was in, and I point my flashlight, and luckily it turns out it's only about the size of the room I was in, but it was pitch dark down there, and I was picturing like a basement that was the entire footprint of the entire home. Yeah, and I was going to be turning corners and finding who knows what. So it turned out to be not that big a deal, but I'm telling you, my heart was pounding,
dude,
in anticipation of having to go down.
After seeing Michael Myers and then a hatch in the
if it would have been just Michael Myers, no big deal. If it had been just a little cellar down in the under the house, no big deal. But you put them both in the same house, and I mean, I was on edge. I'm not kidding. And I don't scare real easily, but I was.
You have some of the bravest home inspectors in all of Mississippi, right here with Pinpoint Home Inspections. I just want you guys to know that are watching this one. That's a little bit wild.
That was a little wild.
Bryson, do you have anything to top that?
A lot of wildlife encounters throughout. So snakes in homes that pop up out of the floor itself. That was very interesting.
Sorry, out of the floor?
Out of the floor.
Between the floorboards?
It was coming from the actual return from an older home.
Yeah.
Where it was located in the hallway of the floor itself. Or in the floor in the hallway, and the snake appeared coming out of the floor system underneath the home and started to scale the wall. So I tried to go out to the truck, get a broomstick, try to get him out, and he completely disappeared on me. I have no idea where he went, and I'm going through, finishing up the inspection, scanning, and then all of a sudden I look 2 feet to my right, and he's there looking at me. And I said, oh boy. So I tried to wrestle with the snake for a while. The buyer's agent shows up, and I have to tell her that I have a snake in the living room, and she says, "Absolutely not. I'm leaving. I'll get the report tonight." I've seen raccoons in the attic, possums, bats. I've had a cat that has closed me in a crawl space that was underneath and
closed
ran
you
out.
in there.
I had to make a little prop with a stick that would allow the hatch to stay open itself. And I went in one way, and the cat that was living underneath the crawl space went out the other way and hit the stick going out, so it closed me in.
What did you do to that cat to make it want to close you in there, dude?
No, I mean I was going around on his home underneath, but I was trying to just do an inspection under there, so that was a little nerve-wracking itself. And I would say going with the Michael Myers, some voodoo dolls in an attic that just had pins and needles, dolls that would talk itself, that have, like, if you have a little button on them itself. I had one that I did not touch at all, and it started talking while I was in the attic.
Nope.
And that was a little different. I don't like he said, I don't get freaked out too much, but if I'm in the attic on an older home by myself and not here talking, it's a little different.
That's unnerving. Yeah. Have either of you come across one of those, like, I don't know if antique's the right word, but just kind of old-fashioned rooms where you just got like porcelain dolls everywhere? Y'all both come across that?
Yeah,
absolutely.
The doilies everywhere, the porcelain dolls.
See, I don't scare easy either, but if I walked into that room, I could probably handle the voodoo dolls, actually. But walking into a porcelain, doily doll room, nope, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, there's some creepy stuff out there for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, y'all have heard it here first. I mean, we've got some of the bravest home inspectors out there that will face their fears to inspect the whole home, and will also wrangle animals when it calls for it. Do you have to report that in the report that you find live animals in the attic?
We will put it in. I would love to start making more social media posts about it. Sometimes you don't really want to do it, for the client's sake, but we could really run up some views with some of the stuff that we see.
Dude, you got to do it for the Insta.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, perfect. The last thing that I want to let you guys kind of do, we've got a few minutes left in this episode. I would love to let you two have the opportunity, any shout outs, any closing remarks that you'd like to say. Floor is yours for the next couple minutes. Anything else that you'd like to say on home inspection or anything in general? Floor is yours, gentlemen.
I'd like to thank all the people that we kind of mentioned in some of our stories, and maybe some unsung people as well. Chris Stull, if you're in the North Houston area, give him a call for your inspection. He's the guy, my mentor. He raised, the bar for me to do what I do and to try to do it as well as possible. My wife and my dad and my kids, just being supportive of, just kind of stepping out there and starting a business from scratch in a place where we didn't know anybody. Like I already mentioned, Bryson, I mean, he's been instrumental in making everything that we're currently doing possible and bringing us, to that next level. And, all the agents out there, I mean, I try to blast y'all as much as possible. We couldn't do this without you. And, we appreciate you so much, the referrals and, even feedback and comments and things that we can do to improve and things like that. It's just, I can't say enough about all of them.
Absolutely. Anything from you, Bryson?
Yep, I would say most definitely our clients throughout that took the chance on us, used us, trusted us to give a good inspection of their home. It's one of the biggest purchases they've ever made itself. The agents that continually recommend us to their clients itself. I would say my wife for having a little bit of trust in the period when I was going through a little bit of transition for my career. She really was able to buckle down and let me, try to explore some things, going, stepping in, starting something completely new with Jeff that I was unfamiliar of. I'd had a little bit of construction background, but just going in and jumping into something, it took a little bit of patience throughout. And faith throughout, a lot of prayers. So, number one, I would say the Lord itself, we're very, very grateful to him, and we try to implement that. Thank you for having us on the podcast.
Yeah,
we sure do appreciate this.
Of course.
But I would just say if anyone that is looking to, Have any more questions, any information, always feel free to give us a call. And you can go online at pinpointhomeinspection.com, and we'd be happy to
Pick Pinpoint.
pinpoint.
Well, and we'll have the correct information
Yes.
pulled up in the description of the episode and have all their details and information.
Yep.
So if you are in Mississippi and you are buying a home, these are your guys. Do you guys travel outside of state lines for inspections?
We do not go outside of state lines. There's different licensing requirements in each state. I will say that we don't just cover the Jackson area. Like Bryson mentioned earlier, I'm down south, so I live in Wesson. I cover Macomb, Brookhaven, Hazelhurst, Crystal Springs. I go out west to Natchez. I've even been to Hattiesburg a time or two.
Yeah.
Bryson handles most of the stuff up here, so he's picking up at Crystal Springs and working through Terry, Byron, Jackson, all the way up through Gluckstadt, Yazoo City, Vicksburg, Brandon,
way north. Been down to the coast.
Been to the coast.
So they do the entire state, but if you're not if you're not blessed enough to be in the state of Mississippi where you can use their services and you're outside of the state, please use them as a resource. They'd be more than happy to answer any questions. They can look up things for you on what is required for inspections for your state and help you keep other home inspectors accountable if you're not certain if they're doing a good job or not. But with all that said, thank you guys again for coming on the podcast today. Really appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely.
Once again, thank you to New Way Realty, always letting us use this space for the podcast. Really appreciate that. And with that is going to wrap up our episode today with Pinpoint Home Inspection. Thank you so much for tuning into the Pulse RE, where we give you a heartbeat on the world of real estate.